Hey, everybody, welcome to my own private Kokomo, your every other daily dose of the island life. I'm Ryan Meharry. No Dave Toni today. He,
What?
I know.
Yeah.
And that great
Yeah.
news, right? Woo! No, Dave is he's on the road. He's being a patriot. He is traveling to visit some family. He's not wearing his mask wherever he goes. He
Oof.
is no, he's being very cautious. When he told me what he was doing, I gave him a little like, oh yeah. And he's like, no, here's what we're doing it this way. Going to be there, only seeing them, coming straight back, not talking to anyone, doing everything right.
Does he want you to talk about this?
We talked about it Monday also.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I mean, yeah, I was tuning in.
Oh yeah. So no Dave today, but Toni and Drew have graciously accepted to sit in today. We have a very fun show planned. Maybe, who knows? You never know. You never know if it's going to be fun or not. But but first, I'll just check in with you guys. How are you doing in general? Just how's life?
Good. Right before we went live, Toni looked at me and goes, I don't know if this is going to be good for us.
Oh, really? That's why. Interesting. Yeah.
Well, all right. Are we on 3 screens, Meharry?
Oh, God damn it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There we go. That's better. That's better. Oh, man, everyone has to remind me. One of these days I'll get it. But anyway, so yeah, today what we're going to do is I asked Drew and Toni, and then I did it also, to take some boundaries quiz to figure out kind of what your boundary type is or how good you are with boundaries. I did it because it's actually something I've been thinking about lately, something I've been trying to work on. I don't think I'm very good about establishing like strong, healthy boundaries.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, well, let me dive into that a little bit more and talk about it with other people, because it's not a subject I feel like people talk about a lot, right?
I feel it's talked about a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, no. I mean,
I think, yeah, sometimes. I guess I hadn't really thought about how much boundaries aren't talked about, but
yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason, I mean, I think like certain types of boundaries are discussed a lot, but just like maintaining your own personal boundaries, I don't know. It feels I don't feel like I hear about it talked about much. Or maybe it's just I don't talk about it much. It's kind of something new to me, trying to be more cognizant of. And so
yeah, I think it's come up with me in therapy a lot more within like the past, I would say, year or 2 years, maybe.
okay.
I'm also like finishing up one test, so if I'm like just staring at my
no
computer
problem.
out.
We can vamp for a minute.
You're doing the test right now?
I'm doing one of them. All right, chill out, buddy. You guys go ahead.
I feel like you guys are both probably good about boundaries. That's just my prediction. I think you both strike me as people who are very kind of like, I know where I stand on things. Like I'm flexible, but I know kind of where my line is, if that makes sense.
For the most part, I would assume your guess is correct, but we'll find out.
Yeah. Which quiz are you taking right now, Toni? We took 3. So
your emotional type category, boundaries.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that one felt like the most scientific, I would say.
I'm sure we'll get to it, but some of these questions were fucking loony.
Yeah. Yes, the one quiz in particular.
Yes.
Maybe we'll save that one for last.
Yeah.
Had some wild questions on it where I'm like, whoa, I think the person writing this isn't a very good person.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get into that one.
Also, one of the 3 quizzes you gave us, you couldn't fill it in online. You had to write it separately on a piece of paper. I was like, oh man, all right. Geez.
I'm sorry. I know. And that actually, I would say that one feels like it's maybe the most revealing of all of them, because it's pretty like to the point as far as like its questions. Like some of the other ones, the questions are kind of like vague and nebulous, and I'm not sure what it's trying to say. I felt like one of those Scientology personality quizzes where it's like, do you enjoy humming? It's like, yeah, sure, I guess.
Have you ever done one of those stress tests with Scientology?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. I was in college in Boston, and I thought it was something else. I thought it was like, you answer these questions on the street and you get like a gift card.
Right.
And I was like, oh, we got to do this. And they took me and my girlfriend at the time into their
Whoa,
building.
are you hearing this, Tony?
Yeah, I heard it. It's disgusting.
Whoa, whoa, dude,
Okay.
Don't bring up girlfriend.
They put us in.
Don't bring up girlfriend.
Oh man, my college girlfriend.
She surprisingly comes up a lot in our life.
Really?
He does not.
Yeah.
Well, that's a relationship that had an impact on Drew.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a lovely person. They're all great.
Yeah.
Keep talking, Drew. Keep digging yourself in deeper.
God, I miss her.
Yeah, I did it knowing it was a Scientology test. I was just kind of curious to see what it was like on the inside. And sure enough, I failed the test. I don't think like they're always like, I remember I took it and they came back in, they're like, you have a lot of problems. Man, I wasn't expecting that. I thought you told me I was great and I didn't need this.
Yeah. Did you ever see the documentary Push, where they test to see how susceptible people are?
Oh boy.
Susceptible to what?
To being susceptible.
Oh, just to being, okay, like being a sucker?
Yeah, basically. There's a part, like I won't give it away, but you should you'd really like it, Meher. You should watch it. It's called Push.
Okay, I'll check it out. I feel like I'm a sucker. Like I feel like I'm susceptible.
I'm susceptible to like advertising, but I'm not susceptible to people.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, hey, we're all gonna go over there. We're like, I don't trust you. But if it's like, buy this shampoo, I'm like, okay.
You, Drew, probably know better than anyone like how gullible I can be, and like I've been on the receiving end of quite a few like Drew DeFonso Mark's pranks. Well, I mean, more like as an accessory to your pranks on James Mastriani.
Right. Yeah.
But like, so you fool James, and then James brings it to me, and then I get fooled subsequently.
Yeah, it was a double whammy.
And you've done it several times.
Yeah.
Several times, and we've yet to learn our lesson.
It's one of Drew's greatest strengths, and I don't know what it is. He's known to be like a liar and a jokester and a prankster, yet every time we'll be like playing a game or doing something, and like it'll be whatever, like a card game, and people like won't believe me, and I'm like, do you know what you're doing? You're believing Drew. And then we'll play another game, and it'll be in a position where somebody else is in the exact position. And it's like, you're believing Drew over me, like trade me these cards and like, we can beat them together. And yet there's some sort of hypnotic thing that like Drew is like
he gets into your head. He's like Hannibal Lecter.
It's crazy. It's insane.
I'm a people person.
Absolutely. Toni, how are you coming along?
I'm good. I got it. Yeah.
You got it. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll start with that one. The your emotional type, the boundary concept. So this one kind of measures thick and thin. Like those are the two extremes. Like you've got your thin boundaries. Those are people who they react more strongly to like sensory stimuli. They can be like a little more agitated. They're bigger feelers, I would say. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then apparently the thick boundary people, they don't necessarily get emotionally upset, that things are able to just sort of slide off their back. They are far more rigid, so like not as flexible. So they can be more closed off. And so ideally, I guess, for this quiz is you want to be somewhere in the middle. So I took it. We all took it. Some of the way the quiz is laid out is that you're given a bunch of statements, and then you rate them from 0 to 4, 0 indicating not at all true, 4 indicating very true. Some of the statements are, my feelings blend into one another. I spend a lot of time daydreaming. Sometimes it's scary when one gets too involved with another person. So there was 18 questions. You want to just reveal our scores, or?
Yeah.
Or
Also, did anybody else find it confusing that it was 0 to 4, not 1 to 5?
yes.
Yeah.
That really threw me off.
Yeah. Yeah. 0, just like 0. Well, one, it's just not typically how it's done, and then 0 just felt like a so hard defined, like never.
Yeah.
But
So, what are we revealing our total scores at the end?
sure. I mean, if you want, let's go over some of the questions, a couple of the statements that maybe stood out to me, and curious to see what you guys wrote. If you still have your results up. All right. My feelings blend into one another.
I put a 4.
I put a 4 too, although I think it's a 3, but I put a 4 as well.
I put a 2. Now, what? How do you interpret that statement where it's just like your feelings are just constant, like kind of ebb and flow, that like naturally transition from one to the other? Or...
I interpreted it as like, oh yeah, you could feel like one thing 1 second and then one thing another second, and emotionally maybe all over the place. It doesn't necessarily mean you're doing or behaving all over the place or even thinking all over the place, but just like, ooh, I feel happy. Ooh, I feel sad. Ooh, I feel scared. Pretty.
Yeah, you can as an acting exercise. Can we see all of those emotions at once? Yeah, I guess I didn't really know how to interpret that statement, so I sort of just went right down the middle. Yeah.
And Toni, why'd you put a 4?
I think maybe it would be a 3, but still around the same thing. Yeah, I think it just kind of flows where like, again, not acting on it, but I can feel like, oh, I'm happy, and then I get real sad, or somebody will like tell me a joke or do something, and then I'm like, oh, I can, be like, think that's really funny, or somebody tells me like a sad story, I'm like, oh, so sad, or like I see a commercial and I could be having a good time and just be like, oh, that makes me so sad. So they like flow a little bit. I don't know.
You're like, I'd say easily affected, or you're just sort of, I feel like present. I think is maybe like a better way of saying it.
Yeah,
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, extremely empathetic.
Yes, I almost
so we'll say Toni won that statement.
Yes.
Yeah, she won.
Now I feel happy.
Won that one. All right. I spend a lot of time daydreaming, fantasizing, or in reverie. I put a 4.
Yeah, same.
I put a 2.
What?
I think it should be a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to change that to a 4. I'm changing to a 4.
And I honestly, I didn't even realize how much I did it until I read that statement. I'm like, oh, I feel like I daydream constantly. Like my thoughts will just sort of float away to some sort of like, I don't know, better scenario.
What does reverie mean?
I had to look it up. I think it's just basically the same thing. A state of being pleasantly lost in one's thoughts, a daydream.
Oh, then yeah, 4. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just floating around.
Sometimes Toni will be talking to me and it's very important, and I'll just kind of like float off.
Or Drew will ask me a question and then he'll just like start thinking about something else. And I'm like, you asked me this information. You can't wait for my answer.
Drew, do you have ADD?
I believe so. I've not been diagnosed with anything, but I mean, there's no way I don't.
I do, for sure. And I had a hard time sort of accepting it for a very long time until I thought about it in social settings. Like I always just sort of attributed it to like how I study and learn and everything at school. But that exact same thing where I would be talking to somebody, ask a question, they would start to answer, and then I would start to think about something else. I was like, oh yeah, I was telling a therapist about that, and they're like, yeah, that's ADD. You have ADD. And so Drew, I am now diagnosing you with ADD, and I'm going to start prescribing you all sorts of medication. Will
you mail me some Ritalin?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm just going to give you Coke.
Sweet, dude. All right, well, I'm signing off.
I'm going to mail it to you.
Yeah, mail me some Coke. Here's my address on the internet. No.
Yeah, please share your address. What did you guys put for Sometimes it's scary when one gets too involved with another person. I felt like this question was maybe a little too vague for me.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that.
I put a 0.
Oh. I mean, I think it can be a little scary depending on like the level of involvement, right?
Yeah, I put a 2, but I've been listening to a lot of like murder podcasts.
You're always listening to murder podcasts.
I know. I like to
best.
go on a walk and listen to murder.
Do you
Always
like
afraid of getting murdered.
true crime sort of stuff?
Yeah, true crime. I took a break a while ago, and then like in October, this is gross. I was like, I'm trying to get into like this mood, which is disgusting because real murders are like a real thing. It's not the same as Halloween, but then like I just get addicted. Like I like to walk my dogs and like listen to a true crime podcast, and it's like,
do you have a favorite? Because I like that stuff too.
I like the Dateline because it feels more of a journal sort of perspective. I don't like the ones that are like, this fucking bitch got murdered, or like this monster is out there. Or like ones that feel more
a little
like
more journalistic.
The ones that feel a bit more like, isn't this like crazy? Like, or
you don't like those.
I don't like those. Yeah, the ones
you like
that are
the ones
more,
that feel
here's
a little
the
more
information,
professional.
we have the interviews a bit more like sensitive. Like,
and so Dateline does those. Dateline's just not the
does
TV show. They do podcasts now too.
Yeah, and I think they just get the recordings off of them because it'll be like, he looked like this. It's like, well, okay. All right, here we are. It's like,
as you can see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I put a 3.
No offense to people who like those. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, teach your
No
own.
offense to anybody that's been murdered.
No offense to anyone who's been murdered, and no offense to anyone who's murdered someone.
Yeah, you're murdered.
No, I mean we don't judge people based on their choices here. Okay, Toni, thank you.
We don't know why they murdered somebody. Could have been for money or. Yeah, who has ADD? Nobody.
Well, all 3 of us do for sure.
I don't.
Let's see here. There are no sharp dividing lines between normal people, people with problems, and people who are considered psychotic or crazy.
I put a 0.
I put a 3.
What number is that one?
15.
Oh, gotcha. I put a 2 because I was also like, well, yeah.
I feel like it's pretty fluid.
It is pretty fluid. I don't think I think you can be diagnosed or be a real psychopath. But so that's definitely a line, but I think you can have like crazy moments as a normal person. And what is normal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I don't really.
I'm gonna change mine to a 2.
Embrace the weird, everyone.
We are the freaks, man.
Yeah.
All right, I'm changing mine to a 2.
Okay, so those were like kind of the questions that are the statements that stood out the most to me. So now I'm kind of curious as to what your guys' final score was. I got a 42.
Ooh, the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Nice. Toni, where'd you go?
I got a 53. I did this fast, but I got a 53.
With my adjustments, I am a 53.
Whoa, interesting.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I am kind of shocked by that. I mean, we're all, I think, still in the mid-range kind of healthy area for sure.
Yeah.
I thought I would score way more thin. I thought you guys would actually score more towards the middle, closer to thick in a way. But actually, in retrospect, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think some of these also. I would be curious if we have the same interpretation of the or the same sort of like, okay, that makes sense. But I would agree that I do tend to like have a bit more of a, as you said, a feeler sort of line.
Yeah, I think that goes for both of you. I think that's why you guys work so well together as a couple. I think you're both very like emotionally available people.
Oh, very emotionally available. Thank you. That's very
Thank you.
Of course.
I would consider you emotionally available.
No.
Literally backed away from a microphone.
Nuh-uh. I got a high. All right, you guys want to take this next one? This one feels like the most legitimate to me, but I maybe cheated a bit.
Yeah, it's hard not to cheat.
Well, it's just either yes or no, and I did half. I give myself half a point on some of these. So there's 3 sections: weak boundaries or no boundaries, healthy boundaries, and rigid boundaries. And they give you a bunch of statements, and you check all the ones that you think are true. For some of them, I gave like a little half check, and then you count kind of up the number at the end of them, and whichever category has the highest score, that's kind of where you're at.
This is the one we had to write separately. I thought I texted myself my answers, and now I can't find it.
No worries. We'll breeze through this one. I want to get to the last one because that one's the wildest one.
Yeah. Okay.
So real quick. Okay. Let's just go over. All right. So from the weak boundaries is kind of the first section. Is this interesting? Is this is this like a fun thing? I'm fascinated by it. I don't know. I need to check in. I need to check in to make sure that
I can't see the comments. So if anybody's, I don't know.
Just people checking in. Hillary said adorbs. I mean, I'm down. We can pivot right now and I don't know, do improv or something if that's
that's not going to be more interesting or helpful. This is what they tuned in for. This
for
is
sure.
What
I agree. I agree.
I think you should also put the things that we did in the line so people can also take it, or maybe
Oh, am I able to link here? Let me see if I can put a link in there. All right. Now I'm new to this. Let's see here. So I hit copy and then I go over to there, and
I mean like afterwards or something.
Oh yeah. Oh no. So there you go. You can put in links. That's great. Now I'll put in. All right. So I'll just link all of them as we talk about them.
And throw in some funny videos too. People love those.
Yeah, we got to direct them somewhere else to get the funny stuff. All right. So this first section: weak boundaries or no boundaries. What did you guys put for I agree with others to avoid conflict?
What number was that?
They're not numbered, but that would be the second one on weak boundaries or no boundaries.
I mean, I think it's how you interpret it. Like in some situations, I'd be like, no, absolutely not. And in some situations, I'd be like, yeah, the stakes are so low. Sure, who cares?
Right.
Yeah. Maybe I also misinterpreted. Do you put a check mark if you agree or no?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a yes or it's a check or no check.
So this one doesn't have a check mark, but I feel like for a lot of these, I would have put like, as you said, a half or like.
Sure.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's one I put. What I'll find something just to avoid that I'll do is that I'll come around to at least sort of understanding where they're coming from and agreeing with it, but it's still definitely coming from a place of avoiding conflict and not wanting to get into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't like conflict. But
I don't like conflict, but I don't mind it. But if it's like something that somebody's not going to let go, I don't mind being like, okay, I'm free to drop this, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't want to argue with you. So no.
Yeah. It depends on kind of the relationship, the other person, and what are the stakes here?
Yeah, it depends on the context of it so much.
Yeah.
Am I in the mood for a fight or what? What's going on?
Yeah.
Do I like drama right now?
Do I feel like tossing some punches right now? Let's find out.
Let's spice it up. I'm gonna really come into this argument nicely, but I'm gonna come in loud just to really throw her off.
I allow others to speak for me.
No.
I said yes, but I'm starting to think no. I don't know when. I can't think of.
Yeah, this is another one where it's like, well, I guess we could go down this rabbit hole of like situations where it's like applied or not applied. Yeah. Like sometimes if it's like 10 people are in this argument and I have the same viewpoint and they're like, well, Toni, blah, blah, blah. Like, would I be like, and not jump in? Like, is that
I think that means you check. Yeah, I think in that situation, and I that's sort of kind of the same sort of scenario I was running through in my head when I answered. And so I think that's a yeah then.
But I think I would be like, well, I'm not in this, or my point is, or yeah, I agree. But I don't know if I would like.
I wouldn't necessarily have like an issue with like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, but just the notion of letting if someone speaking for you without like checking in with you is kind of a weird move.
Yeah, I would definitely say something and be like yay or nay, or like, hey, let's not bring. I wouldn't just be like, I'm not jumping in here.
Are
So
you
they can
guys
do whatever.
in a lot of 10-person arguments? Like what is
Absolutely.
the scenario?
What
It's a Herald team plus a couple people.
Harold team,
committee.
coach and an AD all just going at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine it being in the back door behind UCB.
Oh, that
No.
little smoking
Yeah.
Yeah, next to like Daily Planet or whatever.
Yeah.
Here's a tough one. I attempt to control other people. I put yes.
I might do a 0.5, but I feel like it's justified and maybe it's not, or it's like if someone is drinking and like making a fool out of themselves, I will attempt to control their behavior or be like, hey, let's take it down or let's go somewhere else. But like
Been there.
yeah, like
heard a lot of times, hey, cool it. Okay. All right.
yeah. Like,
So how good are you guys with that together? Like how well are you able to like
take
Toni,
notes from one another?
Yeah, and Toni, like to Drew saying, hey, that's enough, and vice versa.
I would say 80% of the time she'll be like, hey, cool it, and I'll be like, great, cool, I'm done. And then the 20% of the time I'll be like, fuck you, don't tell me what to do, I'm fucking going to the moon, baby. And those never go well, and they're my fault.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'm fine being like, hey, I feel fine being like, or with a friend or with Drew, just being like, hey, let's talk about this, or like, this isn't the time, or even not drunk, being like, hey, let's think about your temper right now before we do anything. And let's like, so I think something like that, where I'm trying to like control a situation that I feel like they're running more on emotions rather than like how they truly would feel maybe in an hour or the next day. But as far as like, I want Drew to do this or be that, or I want my friends to have, I don't think
there's no
manipulating in that way.
Drew, how often are you not having to, but saying to Toni, like, okay, that's enough, chill, stop. And how do you receive that, Toni?
It's usually the reverse. Usually to Toni, I'm having to like check in and be like, hey, can you like kick it up a notch? Like, you're kind of boring right now. Can you like throw a drink or like call me a name or something? Like, let's kick it up. We got people over.
Drew loves a little bit of drama, and that gives me anxiety, where he's like, yell and it's passion and this, and I'm like, no, we will talk about this directly and civilized at another time or right now, but it will not be this inflated thing. I will not, or I'll like want to we'll have be mid party and I'm like, I want to take a nap. And he'll be like, nope, you're up. Blah, blah, blah.
Nope.
Like, nope, not happening.
So you never, Drew, you never have to be like Toni, like, hey, stop.
Sometimes. It's very rare.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. I see that.
Tony's more likely to implode than explode.
It's true.
Yeah. Drew, I feel like I'm kind of can be in the same boat of, and I don't think I'm super aware of it, of like, yeah, let's have a little drama, like a little bit of spice,
a little passion.
Yeah. But I think at the same time, it gives me anxiety.
Yeah, I don't respond well to it. Like if somebody came in hot, I'd be like, nope, pass. But you can be
I think I subconsciously create it and then hate it the moment it happens.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it. Even the idea of it. I now know, I've recognized it in Drew, where I'm like, oh, he wants a little like, he's like a high school drama kid that needs a little bit of like over the top drama that's like not harmful, but gives him this little like buzz at lunchtime.
You.
Amazing things I've ever seen was in high school. Two friends of mine who were dating were fighting and screaming at each other. And she walked out of the room and he grabbed her purse, shoved his fingers down his throat, threw up into her purse, zipped it, swung it around, threw it into the wall, and stormed out. And it was just the coolest.
That is so impulsive and weird.
It was so nuts, man.
I heard a similar story. Like I read it somewhere.
Jesus Christ.
Different. It was at a football game, and like some guy was getting into a fight with another guy, and like just one of the guys just like looked at the other and went, oh yeah, and put his fingers down his throat, and then threw up on the guy's son.
Intentionally hit the sun?
Intentionally he threw up. I think it was at an Eagles game I read.
A child? Jesus.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
That's disgusting.
That's like,
apparently Eagles games
That is
are
like fucked up.
Eagles games are like Mad Max.
that's insane. That's like the Jack Bauer move of like, I'm not gonna shoot the terrorist, I'll shoot the terrorist's wife, but like with puking on a guy's son.
But the fact that like where that idea, where it would come from and why, like just and you're in like a conflict, like how what that impulse is. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
That's so funny.
And
God.
And not at all surprising at a football game.
Oh my God. I've only been to one football game and it was with you, Ryan.
Oh really? That's the only one you've ever been to?
Only one I've ever been to.
We saw a fight like as soon as we sat down.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Yeah.
And then a bunch of B-2 bombers flew overhead, and I was like, "This is fucking terrifying."
Oh yeah, no, it gets wild. Big flames going up in
yeah,
there.
yeah, it was fucking scary.
Yeah. Oh, it was fun though. Until the Chiefs fucking blew it.
How did they lose? I don't remember.
Yeah, they lost the last second. It was so embarrassing. So
Embarrassing.
embarrassing.
Were you personally embarrassed?
I was mortified. I had guess. Drew was there.
We didn't care.
Oh, boy.
I was mortified. So on that week boundaries, I scored a 7.5. That's what I gave myself.
On the last quiz we're referring to.
The first section.
First part of the second quiz.
Yeah.
I lost my answers, so I'm gonna say.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, here we'll just breeze through this last one. The healthy boundaries are like, okay, yeah, that's all the stuff. Obviously, I want to be like.
Oh, gotcha.
The first statement is, I'm able to set personal boundaries that protect my body, my energy, my time, and my other resources without feeling guilty, fearful, or stressed.
That's everything.
Yeah, it's like, why even have the
Yeah.
other little statements in this section? I did not check mark. I said no to that one.
I got a
It's 'cause
7
it's-
this one because I remember that I had a 7.
Okay, so was that the highest score?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the only one I wrote, my only straight up yeses were, I'm comfortable with other people expressing their emotions.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm able to respect others for who they are and do not attempt to change or fix them.
That can be tricky.
Yeah, that's tricky.
I think really focused in on I do not attempt to change or fix them. I don't know if I necessarily, I am able to respect others. I am able to do that, but like,
Nice.
and while I might think that they need fixing or they need changing, I don't feel like I force my will on them.
Yeah.
Again, it's how you interpret it. Like, I don't see it as manipulative, but if it's like, oh, you're trying to fix somebody for the better, which could be seen as help, then it is changing them to. Well, I don't know. Depends how you look at it.
Yeah. I also answered yes to, I understand that conflict is a natural part of intimate relationships, even
Sure.
though it may not be enjoyable. I think
Yeah.
I comprehend that. Doesn't mean I love it.
I'm great at it.
I take responsibility for my own feelings while others can take responsibility for their own feelings. So I kind of answered yes to all the ones that were like, well, yeah.
Well, I sometimes
Obvious.
take responsibility for other people's feelings, which is unhealthy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll do that too.
I don't do that.
Yeah. It's shocking.
Like, the person's upset, but the thing you said, I'm like, well, the thing I said is true, but they're upset. I'm like, this isn't my job.
Okay, that
Well,
if it's something you said that they're upset by something you said, even if it's quote unquote true, is there something in the delivery,
even
or
when Drew
is there a gray or shady area that maybe it's not necessarily like true, like factual?
It's all contextual. Like it matters so much of what we're talking about. I want to know what you were going to say, Tony.
Drew can do wrong things and still not feel bad for another person feeling bad.
You just called me a sociopath on the internet live.
Is that wrong? I'm not saying all the time, and I think you're an empathetic
I do that too.
person, but
Yeah.
is that
I don't think that's it's not a sociopath.
Yeah, where I would feel major guilt and sad and carry that. What?
I whispered, "I'm going to kill you."
Sure. Where I feel like you could.
How many
be
times a day does Drew say he's going to kill you?
Oh, so much. We both say it, but so much.
We both say it. And Tony has legitimately been like, "I do think you're going to murder me because of all these murder podcasts."
That is true. I've really become a little paranoid. I'm just like, are you planning to kill me? Are you going to kill me?
And I'll feed it too. I'll be like, hey, like, you have all your affairs in order, right? Or like, no one knows where you are right now, right? Like, as I'm holding like a knife, like I'll like feed into it.
Oh, I could kick your fucking ass.
No way.
I say people I could kick their ass.
I will hands down do a Kokomo show that is just Tony versus Drew wrestling.
Game on.
Oh, let's do it for sure. We'll do just like Greco-Roman style wrestling.
Sure.
Sure.
Do they have knives?
No knives. No knives. Man. This is sport. We're doing this for sport.
Lame.
I totally forgot my train of thought there, but hey, that's okay. So I got a 5.5 on the healthy boundaries, which
I thought I had a 7, but I don't know.
Okay, doesn't matter. Anyway, for the rigid ones, the questions I answered yes to, I keep people at an emotional distance. I refuse to quote unquote play if things aren't done according to my rules, plans, or desires. And then I had a few half ones. So that was actually my lowest score. It's a 3.5.
I think I had a 2 or something.
I don't think I scrolled down.
That's okay. This one.
Let's go to the crazy one.
Let's go to the crazy one, please.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Please.
Let's do it. For the love of God. Let's just get to the crazy one. Here, I'm going to link the crazy one so people can check it out themselves. All right. So for the crazy one, I've got my... I
wish I could pull it up. I want to take computer lessons. If anybody knows of computer...
I will teach you.
No, you don't know.
Yes, what kind of what do you mean computer lessons? Like, is there a certain program?
It's just like, no, it's even simple things of like, how do I get, well, I can't even think of a simple thing right now.
Like rotating.
But it's like, how do I get like Safari off of this? How do I organize these? How do like my, we don't need to talk about it right now, but it's,
I'm just curious.
It's simple things that I feel like a good library class with elderly people that they hold. I would love to.
Yeah, I feel like technology and everything zoomed right past me at some point, and I'm totally lost anymore.
Same.
It's a miracle that we're broadcasting something live.
I'm impressed you could do it.
It's insane. I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah,
I really am.
Wednesday, Friday, I'm like, holy shit.
All right, here we go. So this is the crazy one, the Take the Boundaries quiz. So the first question, these are all scenarios, like hypothetical situations. So like number one is your mother invites you to come over for dinner, but you have other plans. Would you A, tell her that you are busy and suggest a more convenient time? B, change your plans to avoid upsetting her? C, feel obligated to try and do both dinner with your mom and your other plans too? So these situations are super specific and very kind of like depend on your relationship with each person that for each question,
or what your other plans are. Like,
yeah, it's like I've got a wedding I have to go to.
Yeah, I said A.
Yeah. I said A also.
Yeah,
I said A also.
Pretty normal.
Okay, actually, here's one, and I'm curious your guys' answers. Your spouse or the person you're dating wants you to apologize for something you did, but you don't think you've done anything wrong. Would you A, avoid the discussion and cry on the shoulder of a friend or parent, apologize to maintain peace in the relationship, decline to apologize and ask for clarification instead? Now, this question's a weird one because A, the person says that they want you to apologize for something you did, and then you avoid the discussion and go cry on someone else's shoulder. It's so weird.
So
Yeah.
bonkers. This was written by a lunatic.
Yeah, I don't think they put a lot of thought into some of these.
Oh, I think there's immense
but-
amount of thought.
What did you guys put? I put B. Apologize to maintain peace in the relationship.
I put C, but honestly, it's like somewhere between B and C because I think it depends on. I think you would be like, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but what I did I don't think is wrong, but I'm sorry that it hurt you, rather than I'm gonna decline to apologize. What's your problem? Or just apologized, I'm sorry, and don't mean it. It's kind of shitty.
Yeah, same. Where it's like I feel like I do explain myself in my apologies when sometimes it's like I just need to, but I feel like I have to be like, well, this is my side. I still am sorry for those actions, but I hope you understand this, and maybe that also helps with the apology. Or it's like I'm not just going to flippantly throw out an apology because that's not fair.
Yeah.
Like tell me what it is and let's talk that out. But yeah.
You and I will butt heads on this sometimes. Because I'll be like, hey, whatever, blank hurt my feelings. And you'll go, blah, 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 blah. Here's why I did it. And I'm like, stop defending yourself. Just tell me that you're sorry you hurt my feelings. I don't care why you did it. And you're like, but I'm telling you why. And I'm like, no, you're like, and then we'll get into it. Yeah.
Do you guys have a hard time saying the words "I'm sorry"?
No, I apologize all the time.
Okay. My issue is I apologize too much. Like I'm, if that makes sense.
Sure.
That I'll continue to apologize for something.
Does your partner think that? Or do you think that?
I would say.
Or whenever this scenario.
Okay, I'll say like most recent relationship. I would apologize, get a confirmation of like, okay, I understand. I like an acceptance of an apology, but then have it get brought back up again and again and again. And so then I'm constantly apologizing
by that person.
They would
yes.
keep bringing it up.
And especially when I'd be like,
then.
okay, it'd be like, okay, so apparently we had this settled. Now here are some things that I have some feelings about. And then they would go back to the thing they were upset about. And I would have to be constantly re-apologizing.
What was their first and last name?
Okay. All right. It's M. Robbie or Margot R.
It took me a moment to get that.
I would constantly apologize for whatever they.
Yeah, you know what? Do whatever, buddy.
Oh, me too. I thought about that. It's like, man, what if I ended up somehow in a relationship with Margot Robbie? She would just walk all over me. I would.
Absolutely. That's how I feel about Toni.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Do you feel like I walk all over you?
No, not really.
No.
You wish.
You know, you get a sip at the same time.
All right. Psycho question.
You want the psycho one?
They're so funny to me.
Let's see here. Okay, this one's interesting. While you are out to dinner with friends, a child jumps onto your lap and treats you like a jungle gym. Would you A, shift your focus from your friends to keep the child occupied and happy? B, continue talking with your friends while peering around the bouncing child? C, tell the child to either sit in your lap or get down and jump on the floor?
Whose child is this?
Yo, what is happening?
What? Yeah, get the child.
A child. Not one of your friends' children.
Not your child, not a friend's child, a child at a restaurant.
Yeah, while you're out to dinner with friends. And I think they're saying it's the assumption is that it's a friend's kid.
Oh, okay. I thought this was a strange child that wandered in and we should be finding its parents.
I mean, I think that's totally reasonable to interpret it that way. But my guess is that they didn't think that through.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Or I mean, or the idea could be it's like one of your friends' children, or maybe it's your child. Like,
Sure, we're assuming that there isn't an emergency weird situation as kind of said a child.
The child is a member of the dinner party.
Okay,
yeah.
That's different.
I answered A, I guess. I don't know. I feel like if it was someone else's kid, I would be like looking around at the other parents first, to be like, this is a little odd. Like, but I would think also it's like, okay, so the kid just wants like a little bit of attention, give it to him, and then
yeah, I said A too.
Same.
Because it also feels like,
what other choice do I have?
Yeah, depending on if it was a close child and how I felt, I might be like, hey, do you want to sit here, or like, or you got to like bounce around, I guess, because like we're talking. But I wouldn't want to parent somebody else's child. But like if it's a close friend, I might be like, we have a close relation,
a niece or nephew or something. Yeah,
it's like.
I usually want to like entertain or engage, or like, or it depends on what the table's talking about. Sometimes I'm like, all right, kid.
Thank God. Well, how weird would it be if the next time we go to dinner, whenever that is, that happens to all of us at the same time? We're all at dinner together.
3 kids.
And random children just run in and start using us as a jungle gym.
Dave will be so jealous.
You wouldn't be invited. All right, the next question. Actually, this one is boring. Let's get to the craziest one.
Yeah, number 8, baby.
Number 8 is wild. We'll finish with this one. Your spouse or date is overweight and really enjoys eating fried food. At dinner, before heading to the movies, the other person is about to order a hamburger and fries. Would you, A, insist ordering a healthier option, B, mention you're concerned the health issues could negatively affect your relationship, C, give the other person the silent treatment while they eat fatty foods?
These are all shitty.
They're terrible. Like, there's no sensitivity whatsoever in any of the responses. Insist ordering a healthier option?
I tried to leave this blank and the computer wouldn't let me.
Yeah. I mean, I answered B. If like for whatever reason something's at like some tipping point, but even then, like the phrasing of it sounds terrible. And I feel like when those situations, like when somebody is seeking help and they want help, that's when you kind of offer that stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me phrase it this way. Toni, I've gained about 15 pounds during this walk-in. How are you dealing with me?
Fine. I don't, there's not like maybe this is like too much information, or like skewed or what have you. Yeah. One, there is no answer to this question that I feel like is appropriate in any way. I think if there's a health issue, that's one thing. If it's like, hey, you're in danger, your cholesterol's high, you have sodium, like right. I get the struggle of that. I love fatty foods and all this stuff. When Drew and I first started dating in the first 2 years, I gained like 20 pounds. I had no idea. And then I looked at
you had gained 20 pounds?
Yeah. I mean, I looked at pictures one day and was like, oh my gosh. Like I truly was like clueless. And
sure.
Drew didn't
I've been like that, yeah.
say anything. I mean, it's not, I mean, thank God. And like one day I was just like, oh, I need to change. I mean, obviously my day-to-day changed because I was dating Drew and I, you know, that new relationship and everything. But like, I couldn't, it's one thing if you're in danger of having like a health, there's better ways to do it. But there's of things of like, all right. So like,
so you would like, if,
well, actually
somebody,
sorry, but Toni, during that time, I didn't say anything, but I was, without your knowledge, giving you the silent treatment while you ate fatty foods.
Best time of our relationship.
Yeah, it sounds pretty perfect. I'm eating fatty foods and not listening to Drew.
Well, then 20 pounds. a day.
So if you, let's say you were dating somebody, and they did have like it's starting to become like a serious weight issue.
Then yeah.
Would you talk to them?
Oh yeah.
If it's a health thing,
Because
not
I'm
a
worried
look
about
thing,
you.
Yeah.
Sure. I think like my issue with this question or this scenario is that it's when they're eating, like while they're about to eat. It's
Yeah.
like that's when you're going to bring it up to make them feel bad. Like it's
This,
such
like
a psychopath. I feel like
silent
wrote
while
that.
they eat fatty foods is so. That makes me want to cry. Just
Yeah.
like seething and watching. Oh, that's
Yeah.
like, or like, no, you're gonna get the salad. You get the salad, and it's just like.
But even
that's
the correct answer, which I think is B, is like, hey, I see you just ordered the hamburger and fries. I'm really concerned about your like health and what you're doing right now. I would love it if you'd maybe, just think about it. Like in that moment when, like I've had weight issues like my entire life, and like when you're eating and like you kind of know it's not the best thing for you in the moment, and so you're kind of at like the most vulnerable spot right then. And if somebody is to like talk to you that way when you're doing it, it's like it makes it extra worse, and you kind of like fold in on yourself.
And the way it says is that it's dinner before a movie, so then you would just sit during the movie just thinking about how your partner just said you were fat.
For sure. It's like, and it, like, I'm not gonna, I won't order popcorn. I was going to, but now I feel like I can't be comfortable around this person. Like they kind of not really attacked, but they kind of got me when I was in a vulnerable spot.
Whoever wrote this has issues with
weirdo
mom. Like it's weird.
Bad mom.
It's really weird. They're all hyper specific.
I mean, yeah. Oh my gosh.
All right, here's one. This is the last one we'll go over, and I'm very curious. I'm very curious to hear you guys' answers for this one. Your friend tells several inappropriate jokes at a party in front of mixed company that you feel are offensive. Would you cringe and look away, hoping he'll pick up on your disapproval?
Make it a guy.
Yep, absolutely. Pull him aside later and talk about your discomfort with what he said. Or C, say nothing because no one at the party seemed to mind. Now, I am positive that in your guys' company, I have been that friend. And I was thinking about it, like, and weirdly enough, just coincidentally, I was thinking about this sort of scenario recently before even coming across this quiz. I was like, oh, like, how oblivious am I at times to, like, am I like being too much? And would I be okay with a friend telling me, like, buddy, relax, like, tone it down? And my answer was like, yes, please, God, yes. I would kill to have a friend tell me, like, dude, stop. Like, you got to stop doing that.
I don't know. My feelings on it are like, hey, look, our friend is doing blank. Like, as long as it's not harmful, I'm usually like, go, man, go. I want to throw some gasoline on this fire. Like,
for sure. I mean, my issue is that my shit's like, I'm super funny and that like I'm usually crushing.
I mean, the specific I'm thinking about is you dancing at that wedding. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
No, for sure. I've embarrassed myself at far too many weddings.
It was
but
a wedding. I mean, you guys both know this, but just anybody watching. And so it was like Maharry's dancing on the dance floor alone. And I go over and Maharry's dancing surrounded by strangers and children.
This was at the same wedding that I loudly from across the room when the groom was doing a speech about he'll never have this again with his bride and cackled at his joke, and then loudly was like, it's a funny joke.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Toni and I we've ruined that wedding.
It was great. I had a great time at that wedding. But on the dance floor, Maharry's dancing just like normal, and then every few minutes, slow motion, pulls invisible guns out of nowhere, just walking around the dance floor, just fully committed, just shooting people on the dance floor, cocking a shotgun, blowing someone's head off, going back to dancing, doing it again. I just laughed. So I still do it. I do it in the house to Toni.
To the aunt and uncle of these people,
Yeah.
like older.
I was
families.
definitely playing to an audience of one. I felt like
I-
to
You
Drew.
were playing to, but yeah, it was.
I tell that story all the time. I love that story.
Yeah, Drew's getting that response from Drew was making me so happy, and so I kept like diving into it, just like going in more. And um, my wife at the time just was like, "Dude," afterwards, like, you can't be doing that.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah. So, how did you guys answer that question? I personally said I would cringe and look away, hoping he'll pick up on disapproval.
I said, and again, they all rely on context. I said say nothing because no one at the party seemed to mind.
Yeah, if that's like,
I'll pull him aside because while nobody seems to mind, there's probably other people that are like, depending on the subject matter, that are like,
yeah,
or like, hey, we're all gonna put on this face because you're the loud guy in the room right now saying these inappropriate, cringeworthy things. So I would definitely give my 2 cents. Whether they take it or not is fine. Or I could also, sometimes I'm like more conscious of like, is this okay? Is this not okay? That I might be overstepping a bound where it's like, no, everybody was having fun, but I would definitely pull them aside and be direct and tell them, but not necessarily berate them. Or
I would, if it's not like offensive, like, sexist.
I mean, cringeworthy seems like
cringeworthy can be like, someone's drunk and telling puns that nobody wants to hear.
Yeah, it's just sort of like,
I'd pull them aside and
hey, and nobody hears about your fucking dumb jokes.
Yeah, that's. I think like when somebody's being like crude or truly inappropriate.
Yeah, then sure, I wouldn't shame them. But normally, if it's harmless, awkward, or cringeworthy, I'll throw gasoline on it to enhance it. If it's offensive, yeah.
You might be a sociopath.
No, that's
I'm joking. Toni, when I read that statement and started in, you got like a big smile, like a very knowing, like, is there an instance that you were thinking of, like a situation in regards to me?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna say it.
You're not gonna say it here? Okay.
I'll tell you later what it is.
Okay.
Without being specific, can I take a guess, Toni?
I think you know what it is.
Was it within the last year?
No.
Was it done in a Green Lantern costume?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Oh yeah, no, I know that one. I think so. If I think, yeah, no, that one bad.
We do that around the house all the time. We love it.
Okay, I get cold sweats when I don't. Yeah, we don't need to talk about it. Never. Like,
But to answer your question, yeah, man.
Okay,
yeah.
for sure.
End the show, dude. Pull the plug.
Yeah, no, that one. Yes. Don't worry.
I love it.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay. Like, definitely confirms my fear that people still remember that. But hey, yeah, I gotta live with that. That was a dumb bad thing on my part.
I don't know how many people remember it though.
I'm sure.
I think it was. Anyways, we don't need to
get into it. The more we talk about it, the more dangerous it gets. Anyway. So
for your own safety, pull the plug.
Oh God. Oh yeah. So my final score on this one also feels like it's just like they're just trying to sell something. But my total score was 5, and it said, "You may lack important boundaries in your life. We can help."
Yeah, it's like Scientology. Mine's 13, but it's all.
Whoa.
It's all. We can still help, and click this. Yeah, it's garbage.
I think 11, but I don't know. I have 11 written down on a paper, but I don't know if it's like 2 tallies or something.
Yeah, the every score, no matter how well you did, there was a book they were trying to sell you.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, guys, how are you feeling? Do you feel like you have a better understanding of your own personal boundaries at the end of this? Do you feel like you've learned a ton?
This was life-changing.
I feel like you could make a quiz for anything and people will take it.
I love it.
Like and have it like dressed up in this like New York Times bestseller. Like, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? I don't know.
There's a new quiz of like, what character are you? And it's like 50 questions, and it's super specific, and you like rate it from like 1 to 100, and it's like shockingly like accurate. Like everybody who's taking it is like, oh yeah, that does. And it's not clear where it's coming from. Like, it's not like, which Harry Potter house do you like? The evil one? It's like these questions, and then you get it, and you're like, oh wow, that's really accurate.
Oh, just like characters in all of television?
I believe it's all like TV and movies.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, I saw that getting
Yeah.
passed around.
Yeah, I took it because I was like, this is horseshit, and I got Samantha from Sex and the City, and I was like, yeah, cool, my hero.
Really?
No, not my hero, but I was like, that fits.
I kind of see it. I
Yeah.
kind of see it.
Yeah, I like her.
Tony, but you didn't take it, Tony.
No, I'm working on stuff.
Tony's being very productive this quarantine. I'm
Bettering yourself.
yeah, she's being great. I'm literally wasting time.
Oh, yeah. No, man. I love it. I love looking for ways to waste time. So I'm right there with you. Drew, Tony, thanks so much for coming on and talking about boundaries.
Thanks for having us.
So much fun. All right, guys, we will be back on Friday. Until then, we'll see you at the beach and keep going. That's it. That's what I was trying to remember. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Bye.